Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to discuss why our firm sets marginal revenue equal to marginal cost in order to maximize profit. And there are a few ways to motivate this condition. I'm going to first look to some basic principles, secondly to some market diagrams, and lastly I'll look at some calculus. And each perspective you'll see builds on the other. So just to our basic principles, which can give us a good start. In economics, we understand our economic actors as weighing up the costs and benefits that they face, and we think about them doing the best that they can given their circumstances. And this means that they're only going to go forward with an action if the benefits outweigh the costs. Now, for the firm, the benefits of producing a unit of a good will be equal to the revenue that the firm will get if they produce and sell that unit. So when we think about the firm, we're going to think about them weighing up between potential revenue and costs of production. But more precisely, we're going to think at the margin. So the firm will be thinking about each additional or extra unit that they might produce. And they will weigh up the revenue that they will get from producing that marginal unit, that's marginal revenue, MR, with the cost of production of that unit, that's marginal cost, MC. And they will only produce if marginal revenue is greater than or equal to marginal cost. Now, some students ask, why don't we just think about the totals here? Why do we have to think at the margin? And actually, as we'll see when we look to our calculus later on, thinking at the margin like this will ensure that we absolutely maximize our profit. If we only think about totals, we will get positive profit, but we will not necessarily maximize profit. And we will need to produce all of the units where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, but also where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. And this equality condition represents really the limit of the requirement that marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. And this will make sure that we are truly maximizing our profit, that we're exhausting all of the levels of production that are beneficial for the firm. And to see this last point more clearly, we can look to some market diagrams. That's my second approach to understanding this condition. Now, if you haven't seen market diagrams yet in your course, and this is confusing, you can skip to the third section and come back and revisit this approach after you learn them. Otherwise, let's think about perfect competition. So the perfectly competitive firm is a price taker. They take the price as given. And I've represented this fact by just drawing that price line in here. It's a perfectly straight line, so no matter what quantity the firm sets, the price will remain the same, that market price. And in this case, because our firm is a price taker, that market price will be equal to marginal revenue. So the firm produces one more unit, and the revenue they get will be equal to how much they're able to sell that unit for, which is just the market price. So our marginal revenue is equal to this red line here. Now, marginal cost we most often take to be upward sloping, like the blue line here. And the idea is with our firm's decision is that, for instance, for this unit here, you can see the marginal cost of production is less than the revenue that the firm will get for that unit. So the marginal cost is below that marginal revenue line. So we should definitely make that unit. For this unit as well here, you can see marginal revenue, that price line is above marginal cost. So definitely we should make that unit. For this unit here, however, the firm should not make this unit. You can see the marginal cost is higher than the marginal revenue that the firm would get if they sold that unit. So really, taking the diagram as a whole then, you can see that we should make all of these units, since for all of these units, the marginal revenue, that price line, is greater than the marginal cost. So I'm tracing that in green. Marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost for all of these units here. But we should not produce these units here because for these units, that marginal cost is above our marginal revenue. And I'm tracing that now in orange. In order to maximize our profit, we're going to need to exhaust all of the levels of production where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. So we're going to go right up to the equality. So the equality is the point that we produce at. That indicates that for the next unit of production, marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. So we know that we've exhausted all units of production where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. And you can see that the equality condition then can be thought of really as an artifact of the fact that we're treating quantity as continuous here. If we don't go right up to the equality, there will always be some further level of production where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost, so we wouldn't be maximizing. We can do the same sort of analysis for a firm with market power. So let's think about a monopoly. So here in this diagram, I've drawn demand in black. I've got marginal revenue in red and marginal cost here in blue. And so if we look visually, marginal revenue is above marginal cost for all of these units right up to here. So we should produce all of these units if we were the firm. I'm tracing in green. But we should not produce these units here because for these units, our marginal revenue is less than marginal cost. You can see I'm tracing that in orange. So the profit maximizing argument is then if we want to make sure that we exhaust all of our levels of production where marginal revenue is higher than marginal cost, we should produce right up to the equality like this, because for the next unit, we know that marginal cost is greater than marginal revenue. All right, so that's motivating our profit maximizing condition visually through our market diagrams. Lastly, we can think about some algebra and some calculus. So let's think about our profit function. So the firm's profit pi is equal to the total revenue that they get from selling and producing their units minus the total cost of production. So it's the difference between total revenue and total cost. That's profit. Now, if we differentiate this function and then set that derivative equal to 0, that will be finding the maximum of our profit function. And the derivative of profit will be equal to, well, just the derivative of total revenue with respect to quantity minus the derivative of total cost with respect to quantity. That derivative of total revenue will be marginal revenue and the derivative of total cost will be marginal cost. So profit is maximized when this difference is equal to 0. So we're going to add marginal cost to both sides and we get our condition that profit is maximized where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So that's another way to see this condition. Now let's look at this visually because it's kind of fun. I've drawn here a standard total revenue function and also a standard total cost function. And when we take the derivatives of these functions, that will give us the slopes of these functions. So the derivative of total cost is marginal cost, and that's the slope of our total cost curve. And the derivative of total revenue is marginal revenue, and that's the slope of our total revenue curve. So to say that we're going to set our quantity such that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, we're finding the quantity where the slopes of these two functions are equal to one another. And I think in this picture, that might be about this quantity here. So at this quantity, the slopes of our two functions are the same. I hope you can see that. And I hope that you can see also that that's going to maximize the difference between total revenue and total cost between our two lines here. So if I think about other levels of production where total revenue is above total cost, so maybe here, you can see the slopes are different. And you can see the absolute difference between total revenue and total cost. It's smaller than if we made the slopes the same. So you will have profit at these other quantities. Total revenue is still above total cost, but it wouldn't be maximizing the difference between total revenue and total cost. We only get that when our slopes are the same. So that's the reason why we don't just think about the totals. There are many levels of production where total revenue is above total cost, but we want the specific level where the slopes of our total revenue and total cost are the same. That's the level of production that maximizes the difference between total revenue and total cost. All right, well, that's really it for this video. 3 different ways to motivate our profit maximizing condition for the firm. If you're stuck in an exam, just remember, marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. As always, thank you so much for watching my content. If this video has helped, please like and subscribe, comment, share, all of that. It all helps. I will say also, I've been doing live streams lately. If you're interested, do check out my channel. I put details of that stuff in posts, so you can check. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Have a great day.